Welcome to your storytelling. Enjoy the stories, and don't forget to subscribe. I still remember the moment I realized something was off. For years, Jason had left his phone unlocked. I could use it whenever I wanted, whether to check the weather, order food, or even scroll through social media. It had never been a big deal. But one night, as I reached for his phone to check the time, I saw the screen flash. Incorrect password. My heart skipped a beat. "Hey," I said, keeping my voice light. "Did you change your password?" Jason, sitting on the couch, barely glanced up. "Yeah," he muttered, too casually. "Just for security reasons." Something about his tone didn't sit right with me. Security reasons? Since when did he care about that? "What's the new one?" I asked, forcing a smile. His reaction told me everything I needed to know. He hesitated. Too long. Then, with a tight smile, he said, "It's nothing personal, babe. Just a habit change." That was the first lie, and it wouldn't be the last. I tried to ignore it at first. After all, people change their passwords all the time, right? But something about Jason's behavior had shifted. He started keeping his phone face down on the table. He'd take it with him everywhere, even places he never used to, like the bathroom or the garage. I wasn't the type to snoop. I believed in trust. But trust wasn't the issue here. Secrecy was. One night, he fell asleep with his phone still in his hand. Carefully, I tried to move it just enough to see the screen. It was locked, of course. But then, just as I was about to put it back, a notification popped up. It wasn't a name, just a number. No contact saved. And the message? "Tonight was amazing. I can't stop thinking about it." I froze. My fingers went cold, and my heart pounded so loudly I was sure Jason would wake up. I needed more proof. Maybe it was innocent. Maybe it was a misunderstanding. But deep down, I knew it wasn't. Over the next few days, I started paying closer attention. Jason was texting more, but talking less. He laughed at his phone, but didn't share what was funny. He started working late. One evening, as he showered, his phone vibrated on the counter. I grabbed it, hoping for another notification. But this time, it wasn't a message. It was an email. "Your reservation at the Grand Vista Hotel is confirmed. 1 king bed. 2 guests." I stared at the email, my hands shaking. Jason and I had no upcoming trips. So who was he going with? By the time he came out of the shower, I had already composed myself. If he saw my face, he'd know something was up. "Hey, babe," I said, watching him carefully. "I was thinking, maybe we should take a trip. Just the two of us." He hesitated, again. "Work's been crazy," he said, drying his hair. "Maybe next month?" Lie number 2. I smiled, nodding, but inside, I was boiling. If he thought I was just going to sit back and let this go, he had another thing coming. I needed a plan, and I needed it fast. I couldn't confront him without solid proof, and I wasn't about to accuse him without knowing exactly what I was dealing with. So, I did what any woman in my position would do. I followed him. That weekend, Jason said he had a business meeting across town. But I knew better. Dressed in my most unnoticeable outfit, big sunglasses, a hoodie, and jeans, I got into my car and tailed him. My heart pounded as I watched him pull into a fancy restaurant. And then, my world shattered. Because the person he met there wasn't just anyone. It was someone I never expected. I gripped the steering wheel so hard my knuckles turned white. Jason sat across from someone in the restaurant, laughing, leaning in close. But it wasn't another woman. It was his best friend, Mark. Relief and confusion crashed over me at the same time. If Jason was cheating, why meet with Mark? Was I overreacting? Was I losing my mind? But then, Mark slid a small black envelope across the table. Jason picked it up, looked inside, and nodded. I couldn't hear their conversation, but I didn't need to. Something shady was happening, and I was going to find out what. Jason came home that night acting completely normal. He kissed me on the cheek, asked about my day, and even offered to cook dinner. I played along, but my mind was spinning. Where was that envelope? What was in it? As he showered, I searched his briefcase, his jacket pockets. Nothing. But then I noticed his gym bag sitting by the door. I unzipped it, my hands trembling. Inside, tucked between a towel and a bottle of cologne, was the envelope. And when I pulled out what was inside, I almost dropped it. A key. It wasn't a house key. Not one to our home, at least. It was small, metallic, and had a number etched onto it. 204. A hotel room? A safety deposit box? A storage unit? I barely had time to think before I heard the shower turn off. Quickly, I stuffed the key back into the envelope and returned it to his bag. I needed to act normal, but I also needed to find out where that key led. And I had a feeling Mark was the one with the answers. I waited for the perfect moment. A few days later, I ran into Mark at a coffee shop, completely by accident. "Hey, stranger," I said with a smile. "Long time no see." Mark looked nervous. That was my first clue. We made small talk, but I could tell he was itching to leave. So I dropped the bomb. "Jason's been acting weird," I said, watching his reaction. I found a key in his bag, one with the number 204 on it. Mark's entire face changed. His eyes widened, and he visibly gulped. I leaned in. "What is he hiding, Mark?" And then, just before he could answer, his phone rang, and the name flashing on the screen? Jason. Mark hesitated before answering. "Hey man," he said, his voice tight. "Yeah, I'm just grabbing coffee." "Alone?" Liar. He didn't mention I was sitting right in front of him. I sipped my drink, pretending not to care, but my heart was racing. The moment he hung up, I pressed him. "Mark, I need to know. What's room 204? He exhaled sharply, running a hand through his hair. "Listen," he said, lowering his voice. "Just let it go, okay? Whatever you think is happening, it's not what you think." That only made me more determined. "Then tell me what it is." Mark stood up, grabbing his coffee. "I can't." Then he walked out, leaving me with more questions than answers. But one thing was clear, I wasn't letting this go. I couldn't just let it go. The key, the strange behavior, something was seriously wrong. I waited until Jason was out the door for a work meeting, and then I went to the one place I knew I could get answers, the hotel. I drove there with my heart in my throat, my mind racing. Was I about to confront him? Or uncover something worse than I imagined? The hotel was sleek, modern, and utterly ordinary. But room 204? That was where everything would change. I approached the front desk, trying to keep my voice steady. "Hi, I need information about room 204. The receptionist looked me up and down. "Do you have a reservation?" I didn't. But that didn't stop me. "Yes, I'm his wife," I said, forcing out the words. Her expression softened. "Oh, I'm sorry, but you'll need to call the guest directly." I clenched my fists, but then an idea hit me. I'd have to go inside myself. My mind raced as I drove to the hotel. I needed to get inside, but I couldn't just walk in and demand answers. That would raise red flags. I waited for the front desk to be less busy, and then, just as the receptionist stepped away, I made my move. Quietly, I slipped the keycard into my pocket and casually walked toward the elevator. When I reached room 204, my heart was pounding so hard I was sure it would echo through the hallway. My hand trembled as I slid the key into the door. The moment it clicked open, my stomach twisted. I stepped inside, taking in the scene. The room was neat. Too neat. It looked like a place someone only visited when they didn't want to leave a trace. And then I saw it. A framed photo on the desk, a photo of Jason and a woman, someone I didn't recognize. I couldn't breathe as I stared at the photo. The woman in the frame was smiling, her arm draped around Jason's shoulder. They looked so comfortable, so familiar. Who was she? I ran my fingers along the edges of the picture, a sense of dread settling over me. But I couldn't turn back now. There had to be something here. I needed to find the truth. I opened the desk drawer, carefully searching through papers, bills, brochures, and then I found a small notebook. I flipped it open, only to freeze when I saw the words inside. "Our next date is scheduled for Tuesday. Don't forget to bring the key." My heart dropped. Date? Key? This was bigger than I thought. I felt like the ground was slipping out from beneath me. My hands shook as I read the notebook again, the words starting to blur. I was too close to the truth. But just as I was about to take the notebook with me, I heard footsteps in the hallway. "Jason." I panicked, shoving the notebook back into the drawer. But it was too late. The door clicked open behind me, and there he was, standing in the doorway with a look of shock on his face. "You?" His voice was low, almost like a warning. I turned to face him, my heart hammering. "So, this is where you've been going." Jason's face hardened. He stepped into the room and shut the door behind him, locking it with a deliberate click. "This isn't what you think, babe," he said, his voice tense. "I can explain." But I didn't want explanations anymore. I wanted the truth. I took a deep breath, trying to stay calm. "No more lies, Jason." He hesitated, his eyes darting to the floor before meeting mine. "I didn't want you to find out this way, but I knew I couldn't keep hiding it from you forever." "What's going on, Jason?" My voice cracked, but I didn't care. Who is she? Jason closed his eyes for a moment, then exhaled. Her name's Rachel. She's someone I met a while ago. We've been seeing each other. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. My husband. My Jason. We've been together for months, he admitted, his voice barely above a whisper. I was going to tell you, but I didn't know how. A mix of emotions surged through me, betrayal, anger, sadness, but most of all shock. How long? I asked, my voice breaking. Jason swallowed hard. 6 months. I could barely process the words. 6 months. That meant everything. Our entire relationship had been a lie. I felt like I was suffocating. You've been seeing her for 6 months? I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. Jason nodded, guilt etched across his face. I never meant to hurt you, but I got caught up. Rachel, she made me feel something I didn't realize I was missing. I shook my head, unable to comprehend. How could he say that? How could he betray me so completely? But I love you, he added, his voice desperate. I never wanted to lose you. I laughed bitterly, the sound hollow. You love me? Then why did you keep this from me? Why did you lock your phone, change your password, sneak around? He didn't answer. The silence between us spoke volumes. There was no going back. I stood there, staring at him, feeling the weight of the betrayal crashing down on me. It felt like the walls were closing in. Every little thing about our life together felt like a lie. How long? I repeated, shaking my head in disbelief. How long have you been lying to me? Jason opened his mouth to respond, but his words were lost in the roar of my thoughts. I couldn't hear him anymore. Tears blurred my vision as I took a step back, shaking my head furiously. I don't even know who you are anymore. His face twisted in anguish. Please, don't say that. I turned and walked away, needing space, needing air. I had to get out of that room. I needed to breathe. I drove aimlessly, my thoughts spiraling. How had everything fallen apart so quickly? What happened to the man I married? The man who promised me forever? It felt like I was in a daze, going through the motions, but never truly feeling anything. All I could think about was how my trust had been shattered, how my love had been taken for granted. I parked by the lake, hoping the quiet would give me some peace. I stared at the water, feeling like I was drowning. Then, for the first time in hours, a thought hit me. Rachel. Who was she really? What did she have that I didn't? I needed answers. And I wasn't about to let Jason, or her, get away with this without a fight. The next day, I made a decision. I wasn't going to just sit back and let this happen. If Jason thought he could keep hiding behind his lies, he was wrong. I needed to confront Rachel. I found her name online and tracked down where she lived. She didn't know me, and that made it all the more dangerous. But I didn't care. I had to see her. When I arrived at her apartment, my heart pounded. Was I doing the right thing? Would she even listen? I knocked, trying to steady my nerves. The door opened, and there she was, Rachel. She was beautiful. Of course, she was. But what hit me the hardest was how much she looked like me. She blinked at me in surprise. Can I help you? I took a deep breath. I need to talk to you about Jason. Rachel's face paled when she heard his name. She stepped back, looking flustered. I don't know what you think you know, but I know everything. I cut her off. About the hotel room. About you and him. Her eyes darted nervously, but she didn't deny it. I didn't mean for it to happen like this, she said, her voice cracking. I didn't know he was married. He told me he was separated. I felt my blood boil. He'd lied to both of us. To me. So you're just as much of a victim as I am? I asked bitterly. Rachel nodded, her eyes filling with tears. I didn't know. I swear. He made it seem like his marriage was over. I took a step back, absorbing her words. Could it be true? Had Jason really manipulated both of us? I didn't know, but one thing was certain. I wasn't about to let him get away with it. Rachel stared at me, her hands shaking. I swear I didn't know. I wanted to be angry. I wanted to scream at her. But as I looked into her tear-filled eyes, I saw something else. Pain. Jason had lied to me for 6 months. But now I was realizing. He had lied to her too. He told me he was separated, she whispered. That he wasn't happy in his marriage. That he was just waiting for the right time to leave. I clenched my jaw. That's funny because he told me nothing was wrong. Rachel swallowed hard. Then we've both been played. For the first time, I saw the truth clearly. Jason wasn't just a cheater. He was a manipulator. And I wasn't going to let him win. Rachel and I sat in her living room, both processing the mess Jason had created. He's been lying to us both, she muttered. I feel so stupid. I sighed. Don't. This is on him, not us. A silence stretched between us before I finally said, "We can't just let him get away with this." Rachel hesitated. "What do you mean?" I took a deep breath. "I mean, it's time Jason learns he can't keep playing with people's lives." A slow, knowing smile spread across Rachel's face. "Are you thinking what I think you're thinking?" I nodded. We were going to turn the tables on him. Jason had spent months sneaking around, lying to both of us. But now, we were the ones setting the trap. Rachel agreed to meet him for dinner at the same hotel restaurant where he had taken her so many times before. She would act normal, pretend like nothing was wrong. But this time, I would be there too. Hidden, watching, waiting for the perfect moment. I wanted to see the look on his face when he realized his game was up. Jason had no idea what was coming. I sat in the corner of the restaurant, watching as Jason strolled in confidently. He kissed Rachel on the cheek, completely unaware that his wife was sitting just a few feet away. He ordered wine, laughed, and acted like the perfect boyfriend. It made my stomach turn. Rachel played along, but I could see the tension in her shoulders. Then, at the perfect moment, she said, "I invited someone to join us." Jason frowned. "Who?" That's when I stood up. His face drained of color. "Me," I said. The game was over. Jason's eyes darted between us, his mind racing for a way out. "Surprise," I said, taking a seat beside Rachel. "Looks like your little secret isn't so secret anymore." Rachel crossed her arms. "You lied to both of us." Jason opened his mouth, then closed it. He was cornered, trapped in his own web of lies. "I can explain," he finally said. I laughed. "Oh, I bet you can." But the truth was, I didn't need his explanations anymore. I already knew who he really was. And for the first time, I felt free. Jason cleared his throat, trying to regain control. "Listen, it's not what it looks like." Rachel scoffed. "Oh, because it looks like you've been lying to both of us for months." He ran a hand through his hair. "I didn't mean for this to happen." I was confused. I cut him off. "Confused? You had a whole system for hiding this. Changing passwords. Lying to my face. Sneaking around. That's not confusion, Jason. That's calculated." His mouth opened, then shut. He had nothing left to say, because the truth had already been exposed. Rachel and I exchanged a glance. We weren't falling for his excuses. I leaned forward. "You had a choice, Jason, and you made it. Over and over again." Rachel sighed. "We trusted you." Jason swallowed hard. "I never wanted to hurt anyone." I laughed bitterly. "But you did. And now, you have to live with that." For the first time, I saw something in his eyes that almost looked like regret. But it was too late. I was done. Jason reached for my hand. "Please, we can fix this." I pulled away. "No, we can't." Rachel crossed her arms. "And I'm done too." Jason's face fell. He had lost us both. I stood up, feeling lighter than I had in months. I deserve better than this. I deserve honesty, love, and respect. Rachel nodded. "So do I." And with that, we walked away, leaving Jason behind with nothing but his broken lies. The days that followed were filled with emotions. Pain, anger, grief, but also relief. I didn't have to check his phone anymore. I didn't have to wonder what he was hiding. Because now, I knew everything. Rachel and I stayed in touch, bonded by the betrayal we had both suffered. And Jason? He tried to reach out, apologize, but I didn't respond. I was done living in his shadow. It took time, but I healed. I found myself again, stronger, wiser, and unbreakable. One day, I looked at my phone and realized something. I didn't care about Jason's password anymore. Because his secrets? They weren't mine to uncover. I had my own life to live. And this time, I was writing my own story.